Welcome to another session of Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. My name is Aishwarya and let's move on to yesterday's practice question which I gave you. Delhi Service Bill, that was what I told you about, taught you yesterday, 2023 has been subjected to controversy and litigation. Critically examine the constitutional and administrative implications of the ordinance for the governance of Delhi. First, you need to mention the introduction, you can mention about the Delhi Service Bill and what does it aim to amend. And what is actually, you can give in a brief what is the controversy between the Lieutenant Governor and Lieutenant Governor of the central administration and what is happening in the Delhi governance. Then it actually asks you about the constitutional and administrative implications. You can write about the constitutional implications, like it violates and nullifies the Supreme Court's judgment. The Delhi government has actually legislative and executive powers to make over the services in the National Capital Territory region. They don't get the powers of public order or police or land, but service is something which comes under their ambit. That is what violated by the Delhi Service Bill. Now moving on to, it also violates Article 239 AA, which I told you yesterday, which gives special power status to Delhi, which is a union territory with a legislative assembly. And it actually talks about having an harmonious relationship between the central and state, which this bill also violates. It also violates the basic principles of federalism and the features doctrine. Now, if we are moving on to our administrative implications, there is tussle between the Lieutenant Governor and the Delhi government. So, if you are thinking at this moment, there will be a lot of delay in important decision making. It could also result in a very big politic gridlock or deadlock in which no decision or development actually comes. It can actually create very much instability or even actually lead to constitutional meltdown or breakdown in communication and coordination, and also there might be mismanagement and confusion within the state administration. It could also create confusion and administrative uncertainty among the bureaucrats as well. So with this you can write about the both sides and you can come into a conclusion of how this problem can be resolved. So moving on to today's topic, we have about 6 topics. We have an important JEDA, hope for a peace in Ukraine. Deep tech startup, I told you in a few class ago what is deep tech, so we have to analyze that again. Coup in Niger, it has been in news for a few days and we need to know what is happening in Niger. One more cheater rise at Kunopar, government kicks off contractual dispute settlement and GST council stick on to collect 28% of tax from online games, gambling and horse riding. First one, JEDA is actually a port city in Saudi Arabia which is located near the Red Sea. It is a port in the Red Sea, that is JEDA. So in JEDA, August 5 and 6, there will be happening a peace talk to complement a peace talk in peace between Russia and Ukraine. Not only Saudi Arabia, but the Western members, Europe, North America, even India is also had a call to come and attend it. So that is what is happening in Saudi Arabia. But this is not the first time there is a peace talk to conclude the war between Ukraine and Russia. This is not even the first chance of how it's done. So before this, we need to move on how a model of peace talks are there. What is Ukraine going to present there? Ukraine is actually have a 10-point agenda of peace talk between Russia and Ukraine. So before moving on to that, we need to know the background. So you see, we will come to this 10-point program, but the first which we need to know is Belarus and Turkey talks. This is the first chance of initiative or first time initiative to talk of peace was derailed. It was between Belarus and Turkey talks, but in this talk Ukraine was not ready because Ukraine already had the support of NATO. So they were not ready for a negotiation or kneel down to Russia to get their mercy. So Ukraine was not staunching in that point. Now, International Criminal Court also issued a warrant of war crime against Russia. Not Russia, just Putin, stating that he is responsible for all the war crimes that is created in Ukraine. Now, I told you in my last class that Putin did not attend a summit that was organized in South Africa because South Africa is also a member of International Criminal Court. If Putin had went physically to attend that summit in South Africa, they would be actually liable to arrest him for the war crimes which is given out by, or the arrest warrant which is given out by the International Criminal Court. So that is what the Belarus and the Turkey talks was actually absolute failure. Now moving on, Black Sea Grain Initiative. I have told you about this Black Sea Grain Initiative multiple times. It is actually mediated by the United Nations, Turkey, Russia and Ukraine for the transport of key grains from the Ukraine and Russia to other parts of the world so that it could contain the inflation and also meet our food security demands. It allowed the movement of about 32.9 million tons of food grains from Ukraine through safe corridor, like we have the Bosphorus Strait connecting Sea of Marmara, then Dardanelles Straits. So we also talked about the key ports like Odessa port and Kornomosmok in Ukraine, through which this Treaty of Black Sea Grain Initiative was taking place. Now I also told you that Russia recently withdrew from this initiative because Ukraine bombed the Kerch Bridge, the only bridge that connects the Crimea and Russia, the only land border or the land bridge which used to connect that. So with the Ukraine bombing the Kerch Bridge and Russia retaliating by removing from this initiative and also bombing the Odessa port of Ukraine, there was actually a lot of confusion of the food grains, and in between this the inflation in the food grains also increased and the profits were made by a lot of Russian companies. Now that is what the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Now this is a failure right now. Now also I told you about the 10-point peace plan of Ukraine. Ukraine wants peace. So it actually talks about a few criteria in which wants to mediate peace. But first it was to maintain the territorial integrity. They want Russia to go back to the borders, the 1991 borders which was created by the disintegration of USSR. They also want to actually confirm reaffirming according to the UN Charter, working of the countries as based on the UN Charter. But the main treaty which you need to know is that they want Russia to be prosecuted for the war crimes. Now this is never going to be accepted by Russia because they are never going to actually fully admit that they are the main cause of this war. So that is why this 10-point peace plan also would sometimes may not work. Now this is not the only model of peace talks created. We have Chinese model, we have a Brazil model, we have even a South African or an African model as well. Now let's look into that models. Now you see China. China also talks about territorial integrity, also talking about the following of UN Charter, also condemn using the nuclear power and stop the hostilities and resumption of talks. But the two main agenda which you need to know about in this China's 12-point plan for political settlement of Ukraine crisis is that they pointed towards NATO. It's more like criticizing NATO, that they have to abandon this Cold War mentality. That is one of the statements given out by China. Like they have to move away from this, that because of NATO is the only reason why Ukraine is still serving. So they have to kind of stop the supply of arms so that this war will come to an end. So you have to get out of the phase that this is not a Cold War, so you have to get out of this Cold War mentality. Also, stop abusing this unilateral sanctions. This is not only for NATO but other Western countries like America, Europe and all who actually use sanctions. So also to stop abusing these sanctions. If you come to the African model, they also talk about the Russia and Ukraine sovereignty, release of the prisoners. These are general. But look here, keeping the export of food grains unhindered. Majority of African countries depend upon Ukraine and Russia for their food grains. So when this Black Sea Grain Initiative was dismissed, the African countries were majorly affected. So that's why they inputted that the export of food grain should be continued and should not be discontinued. Also, stop the fighting, peace negotiation and that such by African model. Coming to Brazil, they are talking about a peace club. Now you see, Brazil is a neutral country. There are many neutral countries who doesn't support Russia and doesn't support Ukraine. So Brazil is talking about formulation of a peace club of a neutral member so that they will mediate between Russia and Ukraine. So let us analyze all these three models. Like IST3 models talking about actually forming a solution plan for Russia and Ukraine, or are they just talking about their own plans and initiative, how they want to see the world? Now China wants to take over Taiwan. So won't this be one of the issues that China would be facing? NATO would come to help of Taiwan. Even US and other European Union may even give unilateral sanctions against China as well. This is a talk confirming China and Taiwan. That is the model of talk that China is talking about. When you cut chase to Africa, they are poor, they are hungry, what they want is food grain. So Adding to all these 10 points, the major criteria that is highlighted upon is their own needs, the food grain. Brazil. Now, Brazil is a very neutral partner, but Brazil wants to be in between the global powers. So, want this also be seen as a stance that Brazil wants to be one of the powers globally. So, that is also talked about. Now, this is all like, you have a lot of knowledge here, you can use however you want, but the main thing is you need to know about the JERA talks, what is going to happen in August 5 to 6, you will also get points from that, which you could be a boost to your answer. Now, moving on to our next topic, we have deep tech startup taking brave risk. In my last class, I told you about deep tech and also shallow tech. If I have a laptop, I have proper internet connections and proper knowledge of coding and all, that is shallow tech. I could work for any companies based on this tech. But deep tech is not like that. You use a lot of resources. You need a lot of capital for that. You need a lot of knowledge and advanced research in that field. Like deep tech, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, robotics, quantum mechanics, drones. So, these all come under a deep tech category. Now, we need to see the phase of India, how this transition of India took place till deep tech. Now, you see the phase 1, the urban areas. Initially, when we are starting a startup, it would usually be in an urban area if we are talking back in time. Because that area you can get access to resources and everything. It's more like a safe haven where it is risk free, and they used to take like focus sectors on e-commerce, seller based platforms and information based trading, where there are no big risk happening here, and it's also a safe kind of area because you are starting in urban area. Now this phase transferred in the area where now they were coming out of their comfort zone and starting their startups not just in urban cities but also in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, expanding also into rural area, thus increasing rural entrepreneurship. Now, after this phase 2 of startup from tier 2 and tier 3 came out, now we are actually focusing on moving to deep tech. Now, deep tech is risk driven, where you may not even get any profit out of it, you may not come out of a solution out of it, but there is a lot of research, there is a lot of capital going on, so there is a need for how the government will be carrying out this. Until now, the startup has been surviving because the share was risk was share based, so that these startups were still moving on and surviving. But when we come to deep tech, there is a lot of risk happening here. There is much more need, like 50 or 60 times more capital and more research and more engineering and scientific skills which you need here when you come to deep tech. It's a risk driven sector. So thus the government policies also have to change. That is why we are moving on to a phase of startup 2.0. Now you see here the availability for deep tech should be much larger. Also the person who is investing should know that this is a risk driven. You may not get an advantage of it, or it may have a long time, because for developing of deep tech, it will take a long gestation period. It can even go up to decades. We know artificial intelligence, it's been 10 years since it came out, but we still are only in the development of 30 to 40% in the case of artificial intelligence. We haven't still achieved 100% of what artificial intelligence can still do. So larger risk, so you need large risk capital for deep tech startup. The person who is investing should also know the risk, that they are taking a risk based investment, and also more emphasis on sectors existing after the SIDBI, and also increase the channel of the research fund towards financing deep tech startups. And apart from this, they need technology. If we are trying to take their technology or import it, it's going to be very costly and it takes a lot of time. So the government need to assure that apart from the investment, they also need to provide indigenously developed technology. So that is one of the two key areas pointed out in Startup India 2.0. So here you need to know the key terms which you need to know is what is deep tech, what is India's initiative, and what is India's present stand in the case of deep technology. We have a lot of startups, like more than 3,000, 4,000 startups which are still focused on deep technology, but all these need finances and indigenous tech for their development. Now we have coup in Niger. Now you see, we have been seeing or in the news of Niger quite few times. So first we need to know the background of Niger. Niger was actually a French colony till 1960. But you see here, there was always coup happening in Niger. This is not the first time there has been a coup or military uptaking in Niger. This is the fourth time. The only time, almost when new presidents came, there was a coup. But during the presidency of Mr. Bazoum, it was only the first time when a president got in. It was the first time there was a peaceful democratic transition of power from the previous to a present government. So, this is the first such military coup of Niger since their independence, and they have been a former French colony. Now, you see here, all this area in the Africa, this Sahel region, they are ridden with coup. Not just Nigeria. If you are looking in Chad, there has been a coup. If you are looking in Burkina Faso, there have been 3 coups. Guinea, Mali, there has been coups a lot. Now you see, this is what the military coup, it is from a video what the military coup took from the Nigeria, stating that they are actually taking the government of Niger. There should not be any interference from the external force, and they are closing all their national borders to ensure that the smooth transition of power happens and there is democracy, not democracy, but the working conditions and everything of the Niger is maintained. Now you see, Niger is also a landlocked country, and it is between, like Mali, I told you, Burkina Faso. All these countries have seen a lot of coup. So we should know why is there so much tension in this area, why is there this coup is repeatedly happening. Now, before that I need to tell you the transition of Niger under Mr. Bazoum. You see, he took a lot of initiatives to build a strong partnership with the US and France. And there is also troops in Niger based on France and US as well. He also tried to reduce the influence of military. When he came into power, it was good. Everything was good. But over time, there was a lot of pressure and tension between the people and between the military as well. The military, what they hated most, that he was trying to control or influence or undermine the military. Also, there was a lot of presence of France in it. It was over-reliance on France. And also there was a lot of insurgency. In this area you can see a lot of insurgency, lot of terrorist activities going on. So because of the spread and increase in this, also the military became very much frustrated. Now that is the 3-point area in case of why the military was unhappy with the decisions of Mr. Bazoum. Now as for the people, there was corruption, there was administration problems, also there was rising jihadist attack, told you, as there was a lot of insurgency going on. Thus there was rising jihadist attack as well, and the cost of living was rising, inflation was troubling them, so there was lot of issues within the economy itself. So this is what has actually happened in Niger, and this has been what has been troubling with the people. So the military actually decided to take the government in their own hands, and they kind of arrested Mr. Bazoum, and he is under house arrest or something now. Also, because the Africa was there in the summit recently, they also gave, African Union gave out that they want the president to be released and the democracy to be re-established in the Niger region. So we can see more about what is happening in Niger in the coming days. The first thing which we need to ensure that there is a balance of power in that area, economic condition go back to normal, such that the stable and a democracy is ensured there in Niger. Now, Kuno National Park, again a cheetah died. This is the 6th such cheetah that dies out of the 20 that is brought out from South Africa and Namibia. Now this cheetah died not because of any other reason, but they were actually wearing a collar. Now the cheetah used to scratch itself and wound itself, thus causing infection for itself, and that is how this female cheetah has died. 6th cheetah found. Also there was infections due to the radio collars which were warning. These radio collars actually gave the GPS location of where the cheetah was. It also, like when the pulse, this is the collar I am talking to you about, like it gives the pulse rates of the cheetah as well. So when the pulse was gone, they came to know that this cheetah has died as well. Wearing this collar, it wounded them and it caused a lot of infection, and there was parasite attack, because of which the cheetahs died. They are also facing a lot of issues because this climatic condition is also not suitable for cheetahs, and majority of cheetahs which are bought, just like 1 year almost 68 cheetahs are dying. No, this is not a good news for India and not the cheetahs. Next, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Government Kings of Conceptual Dispute Settlements scheme. This is basically in Hindi what we call Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. So which we need to know the first phase and we need to know the second phase. The first phase conducted between March 2020 to March 31st, 2021. So this scheme basically is to help the MSMEs, the micro, small and medium enterprises. It was announced in Union Budget of 2020. And also this was to reduce the ongoing legal battle in the case of under direct taxation, so that it would help the MSME and would help them it would increase the ease of doing business also. About 1,50,000 cases, about 54% of the amount and the litigation was resolved under this Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Now we are going on to the second phase where we are cover the cases which are registered till 30 September 2022. This is like out of court settlement where this people are not dragged into court and they could easily do the business and still get like, and they get what the ease of doing business is about. Okay, so this scheme doesn't cover everyone, only the state central government and the bodies which comes under central government, like our public sector banks, public sector financial institution, our central public sector enterprise, union territories, and it also covers our NCR region of Delhi. Or if the state parties at least have the government has a shareholding about 50%, that party will also come. But our state governments or the private sector doesn't come under this. It is only this Vivasay Vishwas scheme, the first party is the central government or the bodies corresponding to it, or if the central government has at least a 50% stakeholding in that body. It covers only domestic arbitration and international arbitration is not covered under the scheme. It constitutes of disputed tax, disputed interest payment, disputes of penalty or disputed fees. These kind of structures are actually resolved under this, so that the MSME, they can do the business easily and they get the benefits out of it. About 100% of the disputed tax will be given off and 25% of the disputed penalty or interest or tax. The scheme will be implemented through the government e-marketplaces. You need to remember this. This will be implemented via the government e-marketplace, and the significance is that it boosts the investor confidence, the free up the financial resources logged in the dispute. So you need to know overall basic of what Vivasay Vishwas is. It's like the government is ensuring the people to believe in them. Doing these mechanism, ease of doing them because MSME is the root of it. A lot of people depend upon MSME. So there is a requirement that their disputes or what the problem they are going on through it is in the case of finance, it could be penalty, it could be interest, it could be fees, etc. These are resolved smoothly without dragging them into court. So that is what the Vivasay Vishwas scheme is. We are going through the second phase that covers all the cases till 30 September 2022. Now moving on, we have in the last class I have told you about that we are going to implement a 20% levy on online gamings, horse riding and casinos. So this our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman saying is that like they are trying to clarify how this 28% is taxed. Now see, if we are entering a casino and we buy a chip of 1000 rupees and we get a profit or we win about 300, the 28% tax is not put upon the win we gain, but on the casino's $1000 which we actually use the chip we bought, and not on the wins that made by the customer. Like you see, 1300. We are not putting the whole taxation of 28% from this. No, we are not putting the whole tax on 1000 the entry and not the 300 win, but only the 1000 which we used to buy the chip. That is what Finance Minister has clarified. It is a very small topic. Yesterday I told you about the GST Council and such. The thing which you need to know is that the largest tax base in the GST is 28%. You should also know about the GST Council. With my limited time I can't take that, but that is something which you need to study in core in case of your economics GS3. Now I have a few questions with me. Atal Innovation Mission is set up under the, it's a question from 2019. This is set up under the Niti Aayog. Like Atal Innovation means it's like a boost to our deep technology where we do develop a lot of technology and innovation and patentship. So it comes under the Niti Aayog. This was a previous year question 2012. Which of these are naturally found in India? I told you cheetah reintroduction program is from Africa. The last cheetah which exists in India dates back to 1900s or something. So cheetah is not naturally found in India. So if we are actually eliminating all the two, the other three, the snow leopard, flying squirrel and the black neck crane are found in India naturally. Now moving on to our next question. With reference to the Vivasay Vishwas scheme, consider the following statements. The Vivasay Vishwas scheme is a scheme for dispute resolution of the direct taxes. That's the correct statement as I have told you before. Any disclosed income of a foreign source outside India or any of the undisclosed assets outside India is not covered under the scheme. I have told you international arbitration is not available. So the statement is also correct. So the first statement, first A comes. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. Now this is a practice question. Please work on it and we will be discussing it in the tomorrow first class. What are the key achievements of the goods and service tax in the last 5 years and highlight the major challenges with the GST system. Please discuss. So, please work this out and we will be discussing it tomorrow, the first one. You can get the PDF in our Telegram channel, Gallant IAS. Thank you. Have a nice day and we will be meeting again tomorrow. Thank you.